Unity of Houston is an inclusive church where we seek to understand and live the teachings of Jesus and other spiritual masters. At Unity, we welcome all people from all spiritual paths and every walk of life. We celebrate the diversity of our city and of our world, and we teach love, tolerance, and oneness, seeking to live in harmony with open minds and open hearts.
Wherever you are in your spiritual path, you are always welcome at Unity. Join us and discover that the life of your dreams is already within you.
How many of you have seen the film Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory with Gene Wilder, right? It takes you into that long-term memory, right? It takes you right back into that childhood memory of, remember Gene Wilder coming out with the kids, and Roald Dahl, he's the author of the book. He came up with these fantastic names for these kids that so suited them and their personalities. Augustus Gloop and Veruca Salt and Mike TV. He always wanted to watch TV, right? And Violet Beauregard, and of course, Charlie Bucket, who got the last golden ticket. And they're getting ready to go into this room, and they see everything made out of candy, rainbow colored, huge gummy bears that you could eat, and a chocolate river that ran through it with a waterfall. And he's there, and he's got his cane, and he's stopping, and he takes a few steps back, and stops them, right? And they're just so anxious to get some of that candy. And finally, like halfway through the song, he lets them go, and you see them eating all of it. Do you remember?
Yes.
You remember? Do you see it?
Yes.
Do you see it? Yeah. So nothing here, right, to see, just me, right? But our imagination takes us into the world. And even if you haven't seen the film, you could kind of imagine the chocolate river, the trees with the candy. And he takes the cup and he takes a bite out of it and eats it, you know. It's just such a great image. It takes me right back into that childhood ability to wonder and imagine a whole different world. And Willy Wonka encouraged children to imagine, pure imagination. And of course, what would be the ideal world for a child? A world where everything was candy and sugar and you could eat it, right? Jesus said in the Gospel of Matthew, "Truly I tell you, you must be like little children if you want to enter the kingdom of heaven." Like little children. And so when I think of little children, I think about the power of imagination. So this is one of our 12 powers. We all have the power of imagination, right? It's our ability to conceptualize, to visualize, to imagine, to dream, to step into a new reality at the point of our mind, to bring it into the world, to conceive it, to live it. And so this talk tonight is for the dreamers. Any dreamers out there? Any visionaries? Right? The child in us. And so I have an invitation for you, and my husband David is going to bring it. It's The Opening from Where the Sidewalk Ends by Shel Silverstein.
If you are a dreamer, come in. If you are a dreamer, a wisher, a liar, a hoper, a prayer, a magic bean buyer, if you're a pretender, come, sit by my fire, for we have some flax golden tales to spin. Come in, come in.
Thank you, David. Thank you, David. When Jesus taught, he used parables, and he got people to use their imagination. He would say, the kingdom of heaven is like this. And it took them into the world of their mind, of visioning, of going beyond the physical world. What's really neat about this talk and this opportunity is that we live with a little dreamer who's always in her imagination. My daughter Felicity, she's 2.5. And she's gotten into this age, I didn't know this was going to happen so young, where she's telling these fantastic stories. And so we'll ask her, like, what happened today, and she'll start to tell it. And then if the ending is not that exciting, she'll just change it and make it more interesting. So one night I came home, not too long ago, and it might have been a Wednesday night after Wednesday night experience, and she's still awake. So it's late, she's still awake. I said, Felicity, why are you still awake? And she was in her room, and she said, well, Bono woke me up. I said, what happened? And she said, well, Bono scratched on the door. Bono's my dog. He's a little tricolor beagle. And so he scratched on the door, scratch, scratch, scratch. And then he banged on the door, bang, bang, bang. And then he barked, bark, bark, bark. Okay, so then what happened? She said, and then he jumped into the sky and he went up on the moon. Yes. So he went up on the moon, and then what happened? And he was scared. And so what happened? I said, well, and then Daddy came on a rocket, and he got Bono, and Bono wasn't scared anymore. He wasn't scared. And then what happened? And she said, and then I came on a rocket, and I went up into the sky. And he said, well, where was I? Where was Mommy? Mommy was on the rocket, but I was driving the rocket. So, okay, you're driving the rocket. And then what happened? I said, and then we came down, and Daddy told Bono, don't go over the moon anymore. Pure imagination, except for the first part. It's fun. It's fun. The world is just magical to her. Imagine if the world was still magical to you in that way, like the way children's. And when was the last time you just laid down and looked at clouds and thought about the shapes that they make? You know, there's an angel. There's a unicorn. There's the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man. You know, whatever you see up there. You know, just imagining, tapping into that ability. Well, we want to create a new world, a new experience, a new life. We've got to tap into the non-linear. Our minds we've been trained to go cause and effect, A to B, right? But spirit is like this. You know, it's not a straight line. It's got its own, it moves in mysterious ways, as a certain U2 song goes. So how do we know what a different world would be like? If it's not in front of us, if we haven't seen it, how will we know? Well, we are one with the infinite. We're one with divine mind. It's our oneness with God, our oneness with divine mind, that is our capacity to tap into that power of imagination and to envision the peace, the harmony, the joy, the connection, all those things that we want so much in our heart comes through the power of imagination. So, okay, if we're so imaginative, we have this ability when we're children, so why aren't we as imaginative as adults? What happened, right? What happened from there when we used to play and create stories and do all those things to now? Well, one thing I know is that the time that we're in now in our country, our world, is we're on information overload. You know, we just have all this information coming at us, and we're trying to figure out what to do with it. And you have a question in your mind, and remember you used to be like, place a bet with somebody, like, is this right? Or, you know, and you're trying to figure out, and now you just Google it, right? Everything's just available online, just instantly. So we're on information overload, and so we're trying to imagine something new, and we think, well, I need all the facts, I need all the information, I need the statistics, I need to do a survey, I've got to gather, and Spirit is going, let all that go, and open to what's in Spirit, what's in the kingdom of heaven, and the kingdom of the divine is so much beyond that. We get into a disconnect because our head, which has all the information, all the ideas coming at us from the world, from sense consciousness, is not matching our heart, our gut, you know, which is telling us, create, do something new, explore. Faith tells us that there's something greater. So you have the power of the imagination within you to create any kind of world possible through the power of imagination. All these 12 powers have a location in the body as decided by our Unity co-founder, Charles Fillmore. He determined that these powers have a power center in the body that you can meditate on and focus on. And the one for imagination is so appropriate for this power because it's your third eye point. So just tap on that point, just gently tap there, just to kind of awaken it, and remind yourself kind of where it is, right? Your third eye point, the power of imagination. So the power of imagination is that ability to, rather than to take in information with your two physical eyes, it is to tap into information coming from within, from that third eye that sees beyond the physical, that sees into the mind of the divine. And so the first aspect of the power of imagination that I want to look at is conception. The power of conception, that everything that you can possibly conceive of originates within divine mind, every idea. So the good news is that if you can imagine an idea, it is possible because it comes from source, because it comes from divine mind, because it comes from God. But the bad news is that harmful and negative ideas are possible. Well, why is that possible? If all ideas are from God, then why do we have harmful and negative and destructive ideas? Well, because of our power of free will, our power as human beings, we're able to take a divine idea and use it less skillfully, let's say kindly. We misuse it, we misunderstand it, we misinterpret it, we misrepresent the idea because it's been distorted by fear, usually by fear, by misunderstandings, by being out of love and out of harmony with the divine. And it can be our way of releasing excess emotional energy. Like when something happens and you get all these fear thoughts like, oh, this could come into play. You get into a car accident and you think, whatever about your car, your body, your family, whatever, get into an awfulizing thing. Well, you've had this trauma and your psyche's trying to do something with it, and so it creates this, and you go, thank you for sharing, and I'm going to use my power of imagination to envision how this is going to work out through the divine in a higher and better way. A fearful consciousness, creates the worst. And I have an example for you, a fun example that I wanted to share with you. Another gift from Shel Silverstein from Where the Sidewalk Ends, and it's called Sick. And it's a poem that I did in my third grade. I came in third in my 5th grade elocution contest. It's kind of odd. My long-term memory remembers only so far. You'll see where I forget, and then I have to use the script. I cannot go to school today, said little Peggy Ann McKay. I have the measles and the mumps, a gash, a rash, and purple bumps. My mouth is wet, my throat is dry. I'm going blind in my right eye. My tonsils are as big as rocks. I've counted 16 chicken pox, and there's one more that's 17. And don't you think my face looks green? My leg is cut, my eyes are blue. It might be instamatic flu. I cough and sneeze and gasp and choke. I'm sure that my left leg is broke. My hip hurts when I move my chin. My belly button's caving in. My back is wretched. My ankle sprained. My appendix pains each time it rains. My nose is cold. My toes are numb. I have a sliver in my thumb. My neck is stiff. My voice is weak. I hardly whisper when I speak. My tongue is filling up my mouth. I think my hair is falling out. My elbow's bent. My spine ain't straight. My temperature is 108. My brain is shrunk. I cannot hear. There is a hole inside my ear. I have a hangnail and my heart. What? What's that, you say? You say today is Saturday? Goodbye, I'm going out to play. I love that poem. I only got 3rd place for that one. That was fun. That was fun. So have you ever done that? Some people call it the organ recital, when you go through all of your health challenges, and it's just everything wrong, right? But what was it that Peggy Ann was so afraid of? Or why not? She didn't want to go to school. Maybe she had a test, or there was a bully or something. But there was a divine idea underneath that, right? Freedom. She wanted freedom. She wanted to explore and create and play. She just wanted to play. We just want to play. So imagine in the playful state of mind, whatever it is that you're wanting to be free from, what would be that instant recovery thing like for Peggy Ann, which was no school, it's Saturday. What would be that? To shift your mind into that instant recovery and to want to change the world. There's nothing to it kind of thinking. Opening up your mind, starting there. Maybe starting with taking a day off from your mind. Just taking a day off. I mean, come on. Thank you for sharing. One thing that's really fun is a cardboard box. A cardboard box. It's the most fun thing to play with for my daughter Felicity. You can do anything. It's a fort, right? It's a ship. It's a car. You can color it, make it all. Just use your imagination. An empty box has infinite possibilities. Think of the infinite possibilities available to you in your life. Charles Fillmore says in Christian Healing, the highest and best work of the imagination is the marvelous transformation that it works in our character. Imagine that you are one with the principle of good, and you will become good. Now, we use the power of imagination to grow spiritually. Remember that whole movement, WWJD, what would Jesus do? You know, like, what would Jesus do? But it's, what I've been thinking about it, it's really tapping into our Christ consciousness within us and developing that because we're wanting to think after the mind of Jesus Christ. So how would Jesus Christ think? And imagine thinking about, you know, sometimes there's a decision to be made and it's like, well, what would Michael Gott do? Or what would Howard Caesar do? You know, you're thinking after people who you know have that wisdom and consciousness, tapping into that Jesus Christ consciousness is part of how we use our power of imagination to bring forth our spiritual evolution and to come into our oneness. And it's fun. It's fun. So the second aspect of our ability of the power of imagination is vision. Vision. Our ability to vision. So we have this ability in visioning to imagine up or to imagine down. So which one do you think Peggy Ann McKay was doing? Down, right? She was imagining down. She was just creating worst possible. I mean, I don't even know anybody could survive if you really had, and she was really trying to convince her mom of something to get out of school. But it's just as easy as she created all that crazy sickness story to imagine up, to imagine possibilities, to imagine change, to imagine the good. We just need some more practice at it because our natural tendency can be to imagine down, to go in that way. So it's necessary for our spiritual evolution to practice that imagining up. That's what we do when we practice affirmative prayer. Affirmative prayer is imagining up. We're knowing the truth. We're knowing the truth. And so when I think about imagining up, I think about what do I need to do to imagine up when I'm praying, to shift my thinking. And I thought about this term from theater, because in one of my previous careers, I was an actor, performer, and there's this term called suspension of disbelief. Have you heard of it? In theater, suspension of disbelief. So you go and you see a show and you recognize that the three walls that make up the stage are just an image, a picture, a representation of something. So if you see a table with a flower arrangement and a chair, it's not a whole restaurant, but the actors pretend like it is, and so you're expected as the audience to really put aside your disbelief and say, they're at a restaurant, because it certainly seems that way, and so I'm just gonna buy into it, right? And so it can kind of sound like escapism, like, well, I'm just gonna fantasize, like, well, it kind of is that same ability, right? But it's not fantasizing about something that isn't true, because when we know the truth, when we know that God is health and wholeness, God is love, God is joy, we know what God is. And so when we want to know what God is, we look to the 12 powers. That's a great way to remember what God is. God is imagination. God is life. God is strength. God is will. You'll know them all by the end of the series. And so when we know the truth, when we suspend disbelief, just whatever, when I say, oh, God is health, oh, but my leg hurts today. Suspend the disbelief and knowing health, really picturing that and letting it, it's amazing when I've done that and been in pain or sickness, how I can feel great. And I'm like, well, this is nice. And then I go back into, the pain and suffering sometimes. Wow, but how did I have the ability to move into that just by my imagination? That's how powerful we are, that we can move into health. And it's just being consistent about that and letting your body heal and moving into that full manifestation of that realization. Myrtle Fillmore, our other Unity co-founder, she wrote healing letters, which were all these letters to people who had prayer requests and needs. And there was one called No Incurable Disease. And in that, she gives steps for creating new images, steps to healing. And so she says the first step in prayer, in healing, is to know the truth of you, just to know. So you begin that imagination process of tapping into prayer and knowing the truth that I'm one with God. I'm one with God. That's the main thing to remember, putting God first, coming into that realization. You are a human being made in God's image. Your essence is divine. And she said, we accept God-given perfection. And so how can we do that, God-given perfection? Well, it doesn't mean that what is showing up now is perfect. So we're not pretending like the condition or the situation doesn't exist. It's knowing the truth that the ultimate you is never sick, that the ultimate you is prosperous, abundant, whole. And so the second step, so there's knowing the truth and then noticing your thoughts. So you know the truth and then anything unlike that in your consciousness shows up. So noticing your thoughts, and are they fear-based? Are you awfulizing? Are you worst case scenarioing? Are you imagining down? Checking in, am I imagining down? And then using your imagination, okay, I'm going there, using your imagination to shift your attention to truth, to recognizing that you have that power and ability within you to shift back to truth, claiming the truth no matter what the condition is, claiming the truth and really feeling it in your being, feeling that health, that wholeness, that joy, that peace, that harmony. We begin with feeling it and then embodying it, which is living as if. Just living as if, that suspension of disbelief. When I came into ministry, I was open to possibilities, and this wasn't it. I was open to it, but this wasn't one that was in my category of maybe possibilities, but I was just trying to be as open as possible. And when Spirit revealed to me, when I said the prayer because I was a singer, actor, dancer, and teacher, and I said, well, I want to use my abilities in service. I want to uplift people. I want to create for people what Unity does in whatever artistic way. I thought it was going to be in theater or something like that. And it came to me to be a Unity minister. And that's how the imagination, when you open up to possibilities, something can come in that's unlike anything you ever thought, expected. That's even better when you let go of the old and you go, I bless it, I forgive anything I need to forgive, and now is the time for my new life, my new experience, my new world, opening up to that. And then, so I said, okay, Unity minister, so I'll step into that. And so I stepped into taking classes, and I stepped into becoming a prayer chaplain, and I stepped into teaching at my church, and so it began with volunteering and acting as if, embodying it. And it was years of training and practice and volunteering, and then getting hired on staff at my church and just moving forward and forward until I became it. And that's the process of imagination, beginning with an idea, an aha, oh, that's something new for my life, and then as if, embodying it, taking that step, one step, next step, next step, and then it's your life. And we see people in our lives like that, where like if they were doing one thing, you catch up with them years later, and they're doing something totally different. You're like, wow, how did that happen? Well, we didn't see all the little steps. They took all the little steps, and that new good came into realization. So what I want you to know tonight is that you're already equipped with infinite possibilities for your life, for taking all the talents and abilities and experience that you have, and Spirit can reuse that and reorganize that and orient that into a greater possibility for you when you're open to that, when you listen and pray and keep taking steps forward, suspending disbelief. And so my task for you this week is to see if you can just let your mind wander. Lay back, look at the clouds and see what shapes they're making. Color a cardboard box. Do something where you're imagining up. Make up new endings for your problems. New, wonderful possibilities. Albert Einstein said, logic will get you from A to Z. Imagination will get you everywhere. And so let's affirm together, all things are possible.
All things are possible.
I envision good unfolding in every area of my life.
I envision good unfolding in every area of my life.
And so it is.
And so it is.
Namaste.
Thank you for watching this message today. I'd like to invite you to join us in person here on campus at Unity of Houston for Sunday morning or Wednesday evening services. If you can't be with us here on our campus, you can still join us live on Facebook or on our website, unityhouston.org, Sunday mornings at 11 a.m. Central.